You tell him I'm coming, and this review's coming with me, you hear? This review is coming with me. Hey, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all doing well out there, and I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. But today we're going to hop on our wagons and head to the Old West. But before we take that trip, do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. Join me here. I greatly would appreciate that. Today I'm excited to talk about Tombstone. Me and Dale_A got together Thanksgiving Eve and watched a couple movies. We watched this one because Dale hadn't seen it in a while, and neither have I. I have that Blu-ray right there. I've had it for years. And we decided to watch that, and then we watched Top Gun Maverick again, probably for my 10th time and for his 4th or 5th time. But we had a good night, and I wanted to talk about this film for a very long time, and I figured since I finally rewatched it for the first time in a few years, I figured, what the hell, let's do it right now. Now, Tombstone came out on Christmas Day of 1993. It's rated R. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes long. It had a budget of $25 million, and upon release, it made 56 in America and 73 worldwide. So it was a nice size hit, especially for a Western, because Westerns weren't in vogue. But around this time, we had Dances with Wolves before this, Unforgiven, which was a huge hit and won Clint Eastwood the Oscar. But right around this time, there was competing Wyatt Earp films. Actually, Kevin Costner was very much interested in this film, but he wanted more control than the studios were willing to give him, especially over this project. So this project kind of went away from him, and he went on to do Wyatt Earp, or shoot Wyatt Earp, where he had more creative control. Enter Kurt Russell, who loved the script by Kevin Jarre. Kevin Jarre was just coming off of Glory, and this was going to be his directorial debut. Now, he did not last very long as director. He did film some scenes, even some scenes that are still in the movie. Most of the stuff is the Charlton Heston scenes were shot by Kevin Jarre. Everything else was reshot by George P. Cosmatos, who came in after they let Jarre go. Now, we got to talk about this goddamn amazing cast of characters we got here. First of all, we got Kurt Russell playing the man himself, Wyatt Earp. We got Val Kilmer in what should have been an Oscar, at least nominated performance. To me, he should have won the Oscar that year as Doc Holliday, because he's amazing in this film. Sam Elliott as Virgil Earp, Wyatt's brother. The great Bill Paxton as Morgan Earp, Wyatt Earp's other brother. We got Powers Booth as Curly Bill. Amazing. Michael Behan is in this film as Johnny Ringo. We got Stephen Lang as Ike Clanton. We got Dana Delaney in this film as the love interest of Wyatt Earp eventually. It's Josephine, who is with this theater company that travels across the country and puts on these shows at the theater. We got Thomas Hayden Church in this film as Billy Clanton. We got Michael Rooker in this film, Billy Zane, Charlton Heston. Robert Mitchum was supposed to be in this film as the elder Clanton, but he fell off the horse and got hurt, and he ended up doing a narration on this film. And there's many other recognizable faces in this film. It's a stacked cast, and the testosterone on that set must have been through the fucking roof. So right in the beginning of the film, we get kind of a narration by Robert Mitchum and a setup of the Old West. And then we get introduced to the cowboy gang right away as they crash this wedding. And they end up shooting the husband, and they take the wife into the church and shoot her and a bunch of other people. And then finally, Johnny Ringo caps it off by shooting the priest right in the head. And then we're off, and we meet the Earps as they're heading into Tombstone. And basically, they're moving there as a family to spend time together, start a business together, and settle down. They've each been lawmen in their own way throughout the country, and now is their point to be able to be brothers and enjoy each other's company and start a business together. And right away, Wyatt Earp goes in to the one saloon, kicks Billy Bob Thornton's ass, who's being this obnoxious card player, gets him out, and him and his brothers take over this card game for this bar. But here's where the power struggle begins. Pretty soon, they come at odds with the cowboy gang after one night of Curly Bill getting high off opium, and he ends up shooting the town marshal, Fred, who was played by Harry Carey Jr., and Wyatt Earp knocks him out and puts him in the cell to stand trial, and the trial, they let him go. And pretty soon, tensions are raising as the film goes along, and then finally, Virgil decides to become the town deputy because now Fred's gone and needs some law, and he's feeling guilty about how the people of this town are being shoved around. And then Bill Paxton's brother character ends up becoming his deputy, and then before we know it, we have the OK Corral shootout where Wyatt says, "You better swear me in." Doc Holliday, being Wyatt Earp's one of his best friend, decides to join up with him, and we have that amazing shootout behind the OK Corral right outside that photography studio. And the shootout only lasts 60 seconds, but it's a great shootout with great imagery of them walking towards the camera with the building on fire behind them. Epic shit here, leading to an epic shootout. And that wink that Val Kilmer gives Thomas Hayden Church's character was actually improvised by Val Kilmer. And we get that great shootout where the Earps kill all of them except for Ike, because Ike runs away like a pussy. And even though he's a bloviator, he's shooting off and spouting all these lines to them. But when push comes to shove, Ike will take off in the drop of a hat because he doesn't want to die. And Stephen Lang's great as the coward here. And unfortunately, though, even though the Earps are victorious, pretty soon they take revenge on Virgil. He comes back into the bar, all his arm. He loses the use of his arm. And then Bill Paxton's brother gets shot in the back and he ends up passing away. And this is when the film fast forwards into high gear for the last act, where Wyatt sets up the cowboys thinking they're leaving Tombstone. And when they go to ambush him at the train station, he kills Stillwell, tells Ike to go tell him I'm coming and tell him hell's coming with me. That great line, and Kurt Russell delivers it with bravado and just awesomeness, pure freaking awesomeness. And then we basically have montage after montage of Wyatt, Doc, and Michael Rooker's character and some of the other characters teaming up with Wyatt, going out and killing any cowboy they see on sight. We get that amazing shootout by the creek bed where Wyatt walks right out in the open yelling no, and he takes out Curly Bill and a few other guys. And they even, Michael Rooker's character says, have you ever seen anything like that before? And then it culminates in the end where they kill off the rest of the cowboy gang. Ike takes off. We find out that he dies like a year later robbing something. And we see Doc's passing because he's tuberculosis the whole time. And Wyatt says his goodbyes to him. He goes out to find Josephine and they live happily ever after. And that is pretty much Tombstone. What to love about this film? Well, for one, the badass cast. This cast is stacked from top to bottom with great actors. First of all, you got stars like Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer, because around this time, Val Kilmer was still a pretty big star at this time. Then you got great character actors like Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton, who's always great, Powers Booth, who's always amazing. Whatever film Powers Booth's ever been in, he's always great. Michael Biehn being great as always. Billy Zane's awesome in his small role. Damon Delaney's great as this love interest that comes into town with this theater production company. Just great cast, and it really sells this film. And being anchored by Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer's performance, I mean, Val Kilmer, again, should have got nominated for an Oscar at least, and he got ignored, which is unfortunate because he's amazing in this film. It's beautifully shot by George P. Cosmatos. Now, I will say, the elephant in the room is Kevin Jarre got fired because he got behind schedule, and he was definitely out of his element after they watched some of the dailies. They realized that this guy is just not cutting it as a director. Really great writer, just not so much of a director. And they fired him and brought George P. Cosmatos in. Now, I know it's been said many times that he was just a ghost director, that Kurt Russell actually took over and directed this. Val Kilmer is giving Kurt Russell for how successful this film is because of Kurt Russell. They said once the production was in trouble and they fired Kevin Jarre, they were actually going to go to John McTiernan. But John McTiernan wanted to shut down production for 2 weeks so he can get his bearings, but they didn't want to wait. They wanted the director to come in and hit the ground running and keep going. So Stallone actually recommended George P. Cosmatos because he teamed with him on Rambo: First Blood Part 2 and Cobra. And the stories from those sets are that George P. Cosmatos, he might have been a great director. The man has since passed away, so God rest his soul. But many folks behind the scenes on those films said Stallone actually directed those films. And the story in this film is Kurt Russell directed most of the film. I don't know if any of that's true. But they did say that Kurt Russell tore pages out of the script, shortened even his role, just to make the movie work so they can get this movie done and in the can so it can make its Christmas Day release in 93. And they were fighting against the clock here. They fired a director, they brought in George P. Cosmatos, and they had to keep going. Now, they did wear real wool suits throughout the film. Willem Dafoe was actually the original choice for Doc Holliday. That's who Kevin Jarre wanted for that role. Now it's kind of hard to imagine. Willem Dafoe is a great actor, but it's hard to imagine anybody else but Val Kilmer in that role. But the studio, which was Disney through Touchstone and Hollywood Pictures, said no because of The Last Temptation of Christ. They didn't want the blowback from that film, so they said no, but they hired Val Kilmer, and they were happy with that pick. Mickey Rourke turned down the role in this film. He was actually offered the role of Johnny Ringo. He turned him down, which I like Michael Biehn in that role, so I don't really care. I like Mickey Rourke in some things, but Michael Biehn was the perfect choice now, it's in retrospect now because we get to live with this film now. But I really love this film. I think the pacing works. It's 2 hours, 10 minutes long, but it never drags. I love the chemistry between Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton, and Kurt Russell. I love the chemistry between Michael Biehn, Powers Booth, Thomas Hayden Church, and the rest of the Cowboy gang. You get Michael Rooker in here. I mean, he's going to have a huge role, but he's great. Billy Zane's great. I can't gush enough about the cast. The shootouts are well filmed. They look, the sunsets and the lightning and the landscape shots look absolutely beautiful and breathtaking in this film. The score is awesome as well. This is a great Western in my opinion. I love this film. If I had a negative, I would say when Wyatt teams up and has his men and all the cowboys that are left, my only problem is with this third act is it can get a little too montagey. Where besides the scene at the riverbed and then the shootout, well, the mano-a-mano gunfight with Doc, who ends up showing up for Wyatt, and Johnny Ringo at the end, right before we get that final montage and Wyatt goes to visit Doc and he dies and he goes out to find Josephine. The action's a little too montagey in this part. I mean, this was an opportunity to give us some epic gun battles, and we only get that one at the creek bed, and then that standoff between Doc and Johnny Ringo, which are great scenes, and some of the montages are really great. But I feel like the last act really could have gave us some more really kick-ass gun battles, which we didn't get. That's probably my only negative with this film. Overall, I know they stretched the history of this whole thing is based on a historical event, and things were stretched beyond what history was. But I always loved this film. It's a badass Western that is just filled with great characters, great acting, it's well shot, and it's just badass at the end of the day. I can't say badass enough. Now, this was coming off the heels of Dance with Wolves and Unforgiven. I'm not a big Dance with Wolves fan. I do love Unforgiven. But this is one of my favorite Westerns of all time. This is up there with Pale Rider for me, A Few Dollars More, Outlaw Josie Wells. I love all those films, but I love this film. 3:10 to Yuma is a newer one that I like. I've always loved this film. I love it to this day. It's a badass movie. If you've never seen it, it's definitely worth seeking out. You can still get this Blu-ray on Amazon. It's a pretty decent transfer, and there's a making of featurette on there that gives a lot of info. It's pretty, there's interviews with all the people that were involved with the film. We do severely need a 4K of this fucking awesome film. I don't know if we'll ever get it. They said Disney's kind of dragging their feet on some of the physical media stuff, which is a shame because their catalog is amazing. And to me, they're neglecting these films. We need a goddamn 4K of this movie. Give it to frickin' Shout Factory. Let them do it. Or Kino Lorber or somebody. Let somebody give us a kick-ass 4K of this amazing film. We severely need it. I need it anyway. I don't know if any of you out there are fans, but I want a goddamn 4K of this movie. At the end of the day, I love Tombstone. It's just a great, popcorny, badass Western filled with amazing actors. And at the end of the day, I would give this film a 9.75 out of 10. I love it that much. A 9.75 out of 10 for that film right there, Tombstone. Have you ever seen this film? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Share this video. I would appreciate that. I'll be back soon with some more reviews. But until next time, bye.